Yeah.
Alright. So, the big old question of today. Wait, did I update that? Oh, hopefully. Right. So, the big old question. So, you can answer that first. I always like to be the one that just sits back and listens.
What? Right, let's turn you up a bit. Okay. What's the question then?
Do you think you have free will?
Yes.
And why do you think that?
Mm. You caught me already. Is the definition of free will the ability to act freely?
um,
Or
I suppose it would be that humans have control over their choices and independent. What the fuck, Bubble?
sorry, I'm gonna
You've
put
got the
that
free
on
will to
silent.
not
Oh,
have your fucking phone doing that.
it's actually the thing telling me that you're on Twitch.
All right. Oh, that's good actually, because I changed the little message. So does it tell you a different message now when that comes through?
Think Out Loud is live. Have something interesting to say. Is all I can see.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just put a
Did you
different
hear me?
message in. Yeah, I put a different message in just to make it kind of custom, so maybe it would stand out a bit more. Because obviously, just usually just said we're live or whatever, but I changed it to say have something interesting to say. Come on down and share it with us on the live stream.
Well, I can see part of it. It's just it doesn't show you the full thing in the notification. But that looks better anyway.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Anyway, yeah, I think it would be basically the idea that humans have the independent ability to make choices for themselves, and it is unhindered by external factors.
Well, I don't think it could be. I don't know why you would make a choice that was unhindered by external factors, but so that bit's a bit confusing. But because you're obviously going to make a decision that's going to affect something, and probably for a reason of effect.
Well, I
So
guess I mean that ultimately it is your choice as to what you do, whether or not you can be affected by external factors, but ultimately it is the decision of a human being to make choices for themselves.
okay, was that your definition there rather
That's
than?
just my best attempt at describing it. Yeah, I'm not saying that is the exact
Okay, no,
definition.
that's
Yeah.
fine. That makes sense. I was just thinking, why? Right, okay, that's fine. Okay, so the reason being is that people. Well, I think a good example would be like people giving up addictions. Now, I know you would obviously be motivated by lots of reasons, but it's like a really hard thing to do for people, and some people can manage to do it, and some people can't. So I think, and I believe that's to do with those people actually deciding to do it by themselves. Is that evidence? I don't know.
But what state are they in prior to that? Then you know, are they choosing to continue an addiction, or are they succumb to that addiction's hold sort of thing, and they have little choice or no choice before that point, or what's your kind of description of that?
Yeah, but yeah. Well, I would say. I mean, I think it is a choice, but it doesn't feel like much of a choice when you're addicted to something. You're just well, it's habitual by that point, and you're being pulled by it. So maybe at the start you're pulled by it because you feel better when you've got whatever the thing you're addicted to is, and then it gets to the point where it's a habit, so you're not really thinking about it, but you'd have to think really hard about it to stop it. So it's kind of like breaking this cycle. I can't remember what you asked. I don't know if I've answered that. Sorry.
I was sort of wondering in what state is a person prior to choosing to say stop an addiction. Then are they in a state of
Yeah, I
free
think they're
will
kind of
or
in.
not? Then
Sorry, what?
Well, in terms of free will, are they choosing to continue that addiction, say, or are they being pulled like a puppet by the strings and really not choosing?
Well, with that one, I think it's kind of both. Because I think there is obviously a like you do. I mean, choice. I'm trying to think of a choice now, but you do decide to go and light a cigarette or to have a drink. Is however your brain's telling you to do that because it wants it, so that's sort of pulling you towards it, but you still kind of choose as well. So a bit.
I've often come to the thought that there's a merging of the two ideas, sort of a kind of mixture of the two, free will and determinism. But I think you're also because basically you start. I think you should start with the question. Do animals have free will, for example, or is it very much the unique state of a human being to have free will? Is that a thing that we can acquire rather than animals? Do you think? Owens Clan is here, by the way. Welcome to the stream. It's good to see you coming back again.
Oh.
There's a Santa Claus. I believe that's Santa Claus. It's kind of small. I think that's what it is. And then I paused and played and got another ad. Oh dear. That's no good, is it? And believe me, we don't even get to... Well, yeah, we don't even share in that, so that's no good, is it? Well, at least you're here now. It's good to see you back again. We sort of changed the main question today to be, do you think you have free will? Now, you were you had quite a lot of input last time on the stream, and I hope you will do the same again for us today. It was very interesting to hear what you had to say. So, what's your opinion on that? What kind of conclusions have you come to? Michelle was sort of just going on to ask me what I think on the matter. And I was sort of asking the question, well, do you think animals have free will? And, well, actually, what do you think of that then, Michelle? You didn't really get a chance to answer that question.
I don't think so.
Just interject for a moment whilst you're thinking. Owens Clan says that people have free will. And welcome, Heat-Seeking Dildo is here as well. And says, hello again. Modern Viking man, as he says as well. I actually like that. That's very true. The Viking roots and then a bit of the modern. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. You've just joined. We're just asking the question today. Do you think you have free will? It's quite a big question, but it seems to be kind of an underlying question to many other topics. So we thought we'd do a kind of broad stroke here and just see what everyone's general ideas are. I believe you were a little bit apprehensive in the last chat, Heat-Seeking Dildo. So maybe this time you'll be more open, and there's no wrong answers. There's nothing to fear. So just if you have a thought on that or a thought on anything, let us know. We're just literally going through these things. It's not like we're going to get solid answers, and there's definitely no ridicule here or nothing to worry about. So feel free to sort of answer. And welcome to the chat, Pro Evil, who leaves us a nice little. I think that's the Super Meat Boy guy. You've played that game, haven't you? Remember the Super Meat Boy? You have to like dodge all the saws and the blades and things, and the platformer sort of, yeah. So I think that's my kind of game. It's a little meat boy, and I don't know if you can see the chat. It's a little meat boy, and it's a thumbs up. So thanks for that, Pro Evil. Once again, the big question of the day is: do you think you have free will? And all of you are not only free to answer, have the freedom, the free will to type in the chat, but you're also encouraged to. So it's much better when you participate and get involved. So definitely think about doing that. But yeah, so we'll go back then, sorry, because you were sort of answering, do you think animals have free will, was the question.
No, I don't think so. But, again, what you're just saying, that's like you can make a choice. You can kind of... Yeah, I don't really... I don't think so, but they can kind of go against their nature sometimes. But I don't know if that's like that's probably not free will.
What's a specific
I
example?
don't
And
know.
sorry, just again, we're getting um, inundated. Is that the word? With chat messages. Um,
Yeah,
Nijo. I hope I'm saying that right. Sorry if that's wrong. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well. Um, the comment is, I believe free will has to be acquired and is not a given, acquired by achieving awakening / enlightenment. What do you think of that comment?
that's interesting. Um,
So
that's
I'm
very
fiddling a
interesting
bit, guys.
actually because what's that?
No, sorry, I was just fiddling with your like picture and because I couldn't see that whole message, but I've fixed it now. I think.
All right, okay. Um, yeah, well, it would seem that some humans, if we could call them that, act more like animals, which I'm kind of saying I don't think have free will. So and it does seem like more of a human thing, and human is normally about thinking and going beyond animal behaviour and stuff. So I think I would agree with that point. By I can't remember who you said that was.
That was Duder Niho or Duder Nijo. Really sorry for butchering your name.
But
um,
yeah,
but I think
that's
that's a good point that they've brought up is to say that it's not a given. It's something that you must work on to sort of obtain or to acquire over time. And a question to you, I'll just say dude. Is it? I think it's dude at the start, so dude. Can't go wrong there. By what means do you think human beings can acquire free will if that's the case? So how do you think they're able to do that? And also adds, dude is fine. So that's good. I'm sorry. I'm
okay.
blind and stupid and so forth. So if I say your name completely wrong, it's just a don't take it too personally. It's just me. Um, but yeah, I think that would be the next question. If we're going to say that it's just not something that is given to you at birth and you're just um, ascribed with, then and then how is it you actually get to the point of obtaining free will? And another little question that pops to mind for me is, to what extent do you acquire free will? Is this on a spectrum? You know, is it the more you're enlightened, the more free will you can exercise, or is it just a case of a black and white scenario where you either have free will or you don't? That's the kind of thing that pops to my mind. And maybe you could answer
Well,
that in
what
the
do you?
meantime.
Oh, I wanted you to answer that
You wanted
actually.
me to answer that. I think it's a spectrum. I think we can wrestle an amount of free will from wherever it lies when it's not with us. And the more we can self reflect, notice ourselves, think about our choices, reflect on the past, look to the future, etc., etc., then I think the more of this free will we can exercise. Um, but one thing that I've always thought is interesting, it's almost as though we, like in the present, I think we very much say, yes, we have free will, yes, I'm choosing to do this now. But on reflection of ourselves in the past, we often think of it like in different terms where we say, oh, that's because I was thinking like this, or I got kind of affected by that. And we start to like retroactively sort of say that it wasn't really our choices. Especially if we're not happy with our choices, we'll basically say that nah, that wasn't really me choosing. That was sort of these circumstances making these choices for me. So I've always found that quite interesting, and that kind of does bring up the different in perspective, depending on when you're looking at free will.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Hindsight. I mean, do you think that's real though? Do you think you can see clearer in hindsight, or do you think it's all excuses?
I would say it
For
depends very
one?
much on what the person, the circumstances. I think there's going to be different levels to that. I understand what you're saying because a lot of it could just be excuse making, and we have to be careful not to do that, not to say that um, basically not to relinquish our free choice and say that we had no free will in that sense, because then we are just allowing for ourselves to make poor choices. And what's then to stop you doing that again
Yeah,
right now in the present, where again you think you've got free will, but you're not really exercising how you should be, sort of thing, and you're opening yourself up to just make excuses. However, I do think in general, in hindsight, it's easier to see um, what factors affected things and analyze things further, of course, in sort of post-mortem analysis. So,
Yeah, because you
um,
can kind of see more of like the stage of life you're in. I think when you look back at things, like for example, if this was while I was at uni, then you sort of look at the whole experience and what was going on at that time. Whereas while you're in uni, you might not be seeing it as a kind of whole thing.
right, because you're right, you're embroiled in the very moment.
Yeah.
It makes it maybe harder to see, doesn't it? So, let's see. Dude says, once humans become aware of their own conditioning, they get more free will. I agree with being a spectrum as well. So, seems like that's the sort of idea that you have as well. Spectrum. It seems to be to me some sort of spectrum. But interestingly enough, what Dude considers the main factor is this awareness of your own conditioning. Um, so, what do you consider to be the conditioning that's applied to human beings? And how do you think people can become aware of this conditioning that you're describing as well? By what means exactly can people do that? But I think you make a very good point, and I'm really enjoying what you're saying so far, Dude. So thanks for that. And everyone else, feel free to make your own points too. As I said, you're not only free to do so, but you're actually encouraged to have a chat with us. So open up, guys. We're just thinking out loud, as the name would say. So, um, but maybe you could think about that as well. So, what do you think, Dude means by conditioning, and by what means, based on your definition of conditioning, do you think people can become aware of it?
Um. Well, I think one of the strongest things that I think of in relation to this is actually just that we're animals. So like the more that I've become aware personally that I'm an animal has um, allowed me to stop acting like such an animal because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to as well. Obviously, like if it's a bad animal behavior where you've not considered things and you're a human who is able to consider all these things, like that should be embarrassing, or it has been embarrassing to me. Um, so yeah, animal behaviors like really like studying or maybe not studying, sorry, but finding out like how similar we are to animals, the way that our brains work, and things that we need and want. I don't know. Those
Mm-hmm.
sort of things would be my main thing to be aware of. And what was it? Conditioning. And then my second point would probably be like schools and sort of institutional things would be the biggest place I would look for conditioning. Maybe media. Those would be the things I would look to see like where my views have come from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it's in your perspective, it's understanding that you are an animal or you've risen from animals, and in a sense, there's much that's sort of left in there from that time when we've been more animalistic that still operates within us, sort of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I think it's easy for people to even listen to what I just said and go, yeah, I know I'm an animal, blah blah blah. But it's like, or we came from animals. Maybe that's an easier one.
Mm.
But like to actually know you actually are still an animal, like you really are inside. So you need to uh, be aware of that so you can stop acting like a monkey.
Hmm. So, dude, do you think that is that the kind of conditioning that you're talking about? Is it institutional conditioning? Is it media and school and so forth that is the conditioning that's applied to human beings, or is there something else that you're referencing? And do you think that's quite an adequate response to what you're saying? Does that sound like some of the means are recognizing that we're just animals and recognizing that we come through evolution, we still maintain and or retain some of the sort of animalistic instincts and behaviors that are there. I think that's a good point. I think to me there is that kind of like split in people's understanding of themselves as either a kind of closer to kind of like a fallen god or angel or something that's just got flaws but basically was perfect, but we're kind of just a step down, or
Yeah.
are we actually just like a step upwards? Are we going upwards from beast state and up towards sort of human? I think that's kind of the main distinction between how people see it. What do you think?
Do you think that's related to God at all? Because when you said that there, the kind of going up, like that seems to be what. or at least Christianity. I don't know about other religions, but it's kind of that there's something bigger than me, and I am trying to be that. I'm trying to be better, like higher up. I'll never reach there, but that's the aim, is higher. And I wonder if this new kind of fallen from God people that think they're all perfect is actually maybe because there's no, like, it's maybe linked, sorry, to the fact that there isn't a religion so much, at least in the UK. People are mainly atheists, so it's like they look up, basically. They won't look up for something better, so they kind of see themselves as the best.
I definitely get what you're saying, but it's also funny in the sense that I think it was that like their religions, like Christianity, that would basically say we are but fallen angels, because if you look at it in their Genesis, it's the idea that we were in harmony with God, we were good beings, and then all that snake and apple stuff happened, and then now we've got kind of this like original sin, so we've got this sin in us. That's kind of the idea. But I do actually understand what you're saying in the sense that people are maybe not as humbled as much as they were, or show as much humility, because they don't really see something that's better than them. And so, as you said, if there's nothing that you look up to or say, oh, I can aspire to become that good, then you just look inwards and say, well, I must be the kind of pinnacle of how good we can be. If I'm the collective of all these people of the past and this is the most modern time, then we must be the best that's possibly there, isn't it? So, and I think that is a problem. That's definitely a problem, to not sort of humble yourself in some way, and just realizing maybe your own flaws, your own limits, your own capabilities, and once you start to recognize those, you have a chance at not being so limited. Um, which is like the very paradox that we're always sort of discussing, that you have to, there is awareness that begets any sort of wisdom, isn't it? If you don't start with recognizing something, then sorry.
Sorry, no, I was just saying awareness seems to be the key of everything. That was all.
Right. I mean, you can't possibly change something if you're not even aware that it's happening, or that it's there. But I'm still very interested in how is it people basically become aware. What are the factors that cause someone to look at themselves and say, "Oh, I'm doing this," or "I'm behaving like this"? Like, I wonder how exactly that happens. And obviously that can happen at like very different times for different people too.
Yeah, it definitely takes. Yeah, it's definitely not the same for everyone, unfortunately, because then we could just dish it out and it'd be fine. um, again, I don't know how true this is, but I think a rock bottom situation could be one of those starting points. Or if you've done something that you really can't ignore, maybe that would help.
And
Like if reality hits you.
When you said earlier that animals can go against their nature, and that was maybe an indication of some free will, what was an example of that, by the way, just out of interest?
I was just thinking about I don't know how real those videos are, but the animals that were kind of looking like the lions and stuff that were kind of with the antelope and stuff. But then other than that, but this is more just what's the word? Like domesticating animals, maybe. But I was thinking just the way that we have. No, it's not really free will. I don't think that is free will. I think no, but it's just weird that animals aren't evil, and humans are in the same state, in the same being pulled by things. When humans are like that, they're terrible, but when animals are, they're generally fine, or at least cats and stuff. Maybe some animals aren't.
But are you trying to say there's a correlation between free will and evil, then? Is that what you're trying to say?
I just thought that too. I don't know, yeah.
Because we basically I guess we're saying that animals live in a kind of state of ignorance and bliss, in the way that they don't really consider or think or choose. They just do. They just act. and they don't have a conception of good or evil, do they? I mean, that's not term. That's something that we have described. That's something that we've come up with, isn't it? So, but you have to have by the very nature of that, then you must have an understanding of good and evil to behave in such a way. Then, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Owens Clan says, "I'm glad that animals aren't in positions of power." Okay. Yes. I I guess I don't know.
Like
Um,
that.
maybe it
It's hard
depends
to
on the
get
animal,
your
right?
job.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It depends. Owls are meant to be smart according to like stories and things. So maybe an owl would be a good leader. Um, Also, Owens Clan says that
Maybe.
animals have family values. What do you think of that?
Let me just think about that for a second then, because that's not off the top of my head. I'm not sure what you mean. So, family values. I suppose in the sense that they look after their young,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of give them what they need, and are loyal. Their family values, is it?
Yeah, and what would you think of this contention? This goes to you and Owens Clan, who I think is the only person that's still here. Um, is it often the case that animals, in fact, do a better job of raising their young than human beings? That's a big nod from you.
Yes.
that's, a, that's a big
Or
nod.
even finished. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yes. So I think they're better at it. Yeah.
right. Considering what it is they have to teach them, which is simply how to be a dog or a lion or a cat, that's what they have to teach their offspring, then they do a good job of that, don't they? And they feed them and sleep them as well as that, but they also show them how to hunt and show them how to behave and how the hierarchy works or whatever they need to know to basically carry out the same life as their parent. That's what they show them, isn't it?
And
So
stuff like when they give them all the things they need if they need groomed and all this stuff.
very
Generally,
much
unless there's something
instinctually,
wrong with that one.
yeah, very much instinctual,
Oh,
don't they?
yeah, it's instinctual. But I mean, it's instinctual with us as well. But I wonder if the problem is maybe that. I think the other day we were speaking about like if, say, you have a bad family, so like just stereotypical, let's say the mum's a junkie and the dad's gone or something, and the
Mm-hmm.
child lives there, obviously doesn't get raised well and then has children, and then this goes down generations and generations until we're left with what we have now. And I think because none of these generations have died off, they've only multiplied more. Obviously, like the problems that are down the line now are like so severe that people can't even look after their children. I wonder if it is just because it's been such a long time.
Mm-hmm. So it's passed down over time. Well,
Yeah, and just got worse because it obviously
while
gets
you
increasingly
ponder
worse.
that idea, I'll read the comments from Owens Clan again. Bulldogs have great emotional intelligence, though they might only care about themselves. So that's
All
one
right,
point.
cool.
And also then says Owen says that people are raised way safer and more capable. Being a completionist doesn't matter so much to me. Well, I'm not too sure. I do understand and probably agree. I think with the first part when you say people are raised way safer. I think I can
Yeah,
understand what you're saying in terms of there isn't the same risks, and certainly not the same fatal risks as there were before. And we've actually often come back to discussing that very point about, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you can far more live in a fantasy now than you could in the past. And the reason I say that is that,
That's bad.
in the past, if you decided to have this fantasy that lions wouldn't attack you, then you would swiftly be removed from the gene pool when you went to hang around with the wild lions. Um, but of course, yeah, there's not that same kind of natural incentive to focus on reality and to adhere your own perspective as close to reality as possible, which I dare say would have been a greatly beneficial thing to do in the past. But
Ooh.
and I'm not saying it's not now as well. I'm just saying that you can actually survive without doing that, though it seems. And Yeah, but being a completionist, I'm not sure what is a completionist. Could you enlighten us on what you mean by that? Because I'm not too sure. When you say that second half, you say being a completionist doesn't matter so much to me. I'm not too sure what a completionist is, so maybe let us know.
No, I'm either I agree with David on the first points. Yeah, they're definitely um, this lack of reality and risk doesn't seem to be a good thing for people. And there was
Mm.
something else I was going to say. Uh, no, I can't remember. Sorry, I'll try and think of. Um, it was something to do with the risk.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's gone. It's gone.
So yeah, but just.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I've got it right. I was just going to say as well, like, I mean, I don't know much about what it was like back in the day, but I would have imagined that when it was in smaller tribes and stuff like this, that if someone was evil, they wouldn't like be allowed to remain in the tribe. So like, and not reproduce as well. So you wouldn't have like generations of like evil people having kids and like fucking up the whole thing, and then bringing other kids into the mess. You know what I mean? Like you would just keep that out of your tribe. You wouldn't let that in. But now there's no getting rid of anyone. You know what I mean? I'm not saying let's go and kill people. But it is like this.
Right,
That must be different
right.
than
There's
the way we
far
came.
there's far more a tolerance of evil then is what you're saying compared to say a
Mm-hmm.
smaller close knit tribe that can manage that or sort of regulate for people who are evil can deal with in such a way
Yeah,
that they get rid of them because obviously by any means someone who's good wants to vanquish evil. That seems to be the case. They can much more easily do that, I suppose. Whereas now, yes, we are expected to tolerate the evil, and in fact, evil is happening all the time, and it isn't maybe dealt with in the same way, and it can't even be like followed and regulated in the same way with so many people,
yeah,
can it? So, it does because evil, operates best under the cloak of darkness, isn't it? Of obscurity and not being seen and not being illuminated. So when there's so many people and so little
it's
personal responsibility, it is the perfect breeding ground for people to choose that as a strategy or employ it as a strategy. Whether or
maybe
not they
that's what I
really
meant by
choose it, but
yesterday.
basically, sorry.
Sorry, maybe that's what I meant by encouraged yesterday.
Um, yeah, I see what you mean. I wasn't sure if it's encouraged because I'm not too sure, but I would definitely say it allows for that to become the case, if that makes sense. And I think we can agree on that at least, whether or not we can work
Yeah,
out if it's actually pushed. But it definitely at least allows for people to behave in a different way than they would have previously, when at least accountability would have mattered more, wouldn't it?
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But saying all this, then does that mean that in the modern society we have less free will than we did previously? Then, in just those plain terms, are we less or more enlightened than our ancestors?
Ah, right.
Not thinking enlightened is in terms of technological advancements or improvements in society in that sense. Just purely, are we able to exercise free will more than them? Do you think?
And are we going back to like tribe times? Yeah.
You can go back as far as you want, really,
Right.
if you want to answer in
Um.
some way.
Obviously, I don't know, but I would think. Christ,
I mean, the answer could be it's the same as an average too. There's nothing to stop you saying that.
well, initially, I was going to say we had more free will back then
Mm.
because I felt like, or I feel like it would have been that more people wouldn't have been smart or anything. I think there'd still be dumb fucks, but like it would be more in reality, as we've said. So that does get rid of like the extreme dumb fucks that we have now, which
Mm.
just shouldn't be alive quite clearly. So in that sense, I would imagine we would be better. Then does that affect free will? Are we saying? Well, I suppose because then you're more aware of yourself and you're. No, yeah, I think I would go with any answer that we were more had more free will previous. But yeah.
Mm. Do you think that people? understood themselves more then than now.
Yes, I think so. Obviously we didn't have like, I'm talking like pre-science and stuff like this, so maybe not in those kind of terms, but I think like with your soul or whatever they would identify that sort of thing with, in spirituality and community and all these things that I actually think we need would have like been a big part of. I'm kind of picturing tribe-ish times, so dancing and singing together and all these things that are just lost. I think that would have made us be closer and then talk about things better, which would allow us to understand ourselves more. And maybe, like we said before, maybe have a kind of wise leader of the tribe who can help the whole tribe and stuff. Yeah, I think we definitely would have known ourselves better. And time to ponder under the stars, I always think that's definitely going to give you way more of a chance to think than a TV, obviously. So
you think that environment basically forces you to think more, sort of like, or we can use the word encourage, it basically like causes you to think more, because that's what you just have to do.
Yeah.
You just are doing a lot more. I wonder what this is, and you're talking amongst each other much more. Like what we're trying to do now would be much more common because people wouldn't have the distractions and the entertainment and the telly and the YouTube and any number of things to basically like avoid doing this. So basically, the art of conversation sort of died, right? It's not really like a normal thing for people to sit and really discuss anything that way, maybe as much.
Not curiosity, no. Not like wonders. No one speaks about wonders.
Wondering things. No, I think people have got to the stage where we now think that everything is answered for. Practically speaking, yes, we're discovering new technologies, new things, but we pretty much know everything, and we basically understand everything. And once you think you have the answer, there ceases to be any point in questioning. So that is a problem. You should never really, think that you have the answer to all things, or anything really, because then you'll cease to explore it, cease to question it. So maybe with less answers as well, they actually encourage more of a free thinking, sort of questioning mind as well. What do you think of that?
Yeah, actually. Because I think science is scientists' side, because they can be up their own arse, made everyone else up their own arse, and who doesn't understand science, and it's just, I think that's one of the effects that it's been people, oh, well, we know everything pretty much, no one else used to, so they just stop.
Do you think it's the case that people are far less dependent on just their own empirical senses as well? Like their own empirical data, in the sense that they now recognize it's much more that you just rush to whatever authority says something, quickly learn all information, and in that way you will appear like you know what you're saying. So isn't that the kind of shortcut to basically appearing to be wise, is to just learn what science has basically told us on a number of things? Rather than just doing a bit of time as well, and that's fine to learn. I'm not saying there's a problem with learning like scientific discoveries or reading journals or any of that. I'm sure that's fine. I'm just saying that does that basically also mean that people aren't at least balancing that with seeing things for themselves, asking themselves the questions, and like doing a bit of their own work to see what they think about the situation, rather than just instantly like conceding all of their thought to, I'll just do whatever like this person who's maybe popular says, or maybe seems smart says, or etc., etc.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think so, actually, because sorry, I've just forgotten. What were you saying there?
That people appear maybe to possibly just reach out to authorities much sooner and do much less of their own pondering and their own sort of just looking at things and sitting down and thinking about those things. I think people maybe tend more to just looking up the answer to things and learning lots of scientific facts in order to appear like they're smart, sort of thing,
Yeah, well, what I was thinking was just basically that there's people, I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you've met someone like this, but where they're, like, it's really obvious that's why they read things. It's so that they can kind of, like, jab in with, like, knowledge, but it's kind of, like, aggressive.
Right.
almost, because they're
Right.
like so just want to be seen as smart, but no one ever likes these type of people because they're always just like, oh, fuck's sake, but you know what I mean? But it's a weird one. I don't know why. Like clearly they're not going to get anyone more to like them with this, but it's as if they're doing it for that reason anyway. But yeah, that seems true, and that's another point. Okay, it's coming back now. Like in school, you know when they're telling you about like also like globalization's happened stuff, so like basically now you're competing with everyone. And I remember thinking that was like really what's the word, overwhelming for like say you were trying to invent something, or do you know what I mean, like all these things that it just feels like there's everything sorted kind of nowadays, even though inventors still create things all the time and stuff. But I think the vast amount of everything is quite overwhelming for creative things like that potentially.
Um, I guess it's hard. Well, it's hard to monetize creativeness. That's for sure. So rather than just because if
Mm-hmm.
people are creative beings and that's maybe the role they would take, they can't simply do that if they can't find a way to monetize it. They'll need to have a job or have some
Yeah,
other thing with that, so they can't just simply be like a creative person is probably as easily. I guess that could
yeah.
be the case, but
We had that's from
no, the whole thing's just died. To be honest, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's just the it could be the quality of things like hearing. I don't know, but no one's like said anything about that. So um, just assume no one had anything else to say. Actually, when it started, I thought like we're getting quite a good like influx of people. Maybe the question was quite good because obviously a few people just came sort of straight in, but yeah, it seems everyone just sort of cleared off, so we didn't really manage to hold anyone's attention with this question apparently.
I think it'll still bring back more people though. The question is a good one.
Of course, I mean, it's a main sort of question. It's a main interesting one that, again, I think it really like it's really the underlying or the underpinning question to like many of the debates and arguments people have. That's what I've always thought is
Mm-hmm.
that I don't think they realize they are basically they're asking this question, like, do you believe in
Yeah,
free will and to what extent you do? And I think that's again that's how you get basically the extremes of both sides. If someone's an extreme person on some position, it's probably because they extremely believe one way or another that free will is in effect. As I said, if you take that in terms of
yeah,
like if you take it in terms of like a homeless person or something like that is the way I think of it. Well, someone who's extremely under the understanding that free will is can be exercised by all people, they're going to say, well, that's their own fault for making the bad choices they've made. And then conversely, if
mm-hmm.
someone really believes in determinism and thinks that free will isn't really what's ruling this, well, they're going to say, well, that's not their fault. They couldn't really do anything. They fell into these down these paths, and they were always going to do that sort
Yeah.
of thing. So they had no ability to not do this. And I think that's how you get extremes on positions, and that's how you get a lot of arguments, basically, because people aren't asking this underlying question first of all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's
This
actually a couple points now. Actually, so people are here, but I don't know, just zoned out listening to us. I don't know, but Owens Clan and Heat Seeking Dildo actually are still here. Um, Owens Clan says, I
yeah.
sort through so many thumbnails, it's hard to find these. Uh, what, to find us? What do you mean? Or, oh, not sure what you mean. Um, Heat Seeking Dildo says, it's an interesting discussion, but I'm from Sweden and my English skills are very basic. It takes forever for me to come up with a whole sentence. Listening is fun though. Okay, thanks. Thanks for the encouragement. I do appreciate that because it sort of felt like for a while we're just sort of speaking into an endless void, and which is fine. We have these conversations
I'm
anyway.
endless boy.
Well, I mean, not. I don't mean you. I just mean us. I mean us are just speaking into like nothingness, sort of, aren't we? Uh, but I was just
Yeah.
saying. I mean, we have these conversations anyway, so I guess that's not really a problem. It's. We,
That's that's the usual situation anyway.
yeah. Well, no, I didn't mean that. I just meant the void is in the other side. Like these guys are the kind of other end, aren't they? You know what I meant. You're just trying
Yeah.
to make me look bad.
I know. I'm just.
Uh, um, well, I think your English skills are beyond basic, to be honest. Some good. punctuation and grammar. So I don't know. I think you're being a little bit humble, but fair enough. Owen's Clan then goes on to say it would be difficult to prove free will. And in a clarification of what he said earlier, he says to find this stream, you'd have to read maybe 200 thumbnails. Oh, you mean you have to scroll down? Yeah, we are very obscure at this point in time, and that's why we need anyone who does enjoy the content to share it with other friends they think might enjoy it. Come back consistently so we can sort of build this community, and then maybe it won't be so at the bottom of the sea sort of thing. But yeah, right now it's a little bit hidden because we're so low down. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that before as well. It's not fun.
What, searching for us? You mean, or?
Well, I was actually just searching for something good, and it took a while.
Oh, to scroll through all the thumbnails, right? Yeah. Also, Stroker Aces here. Welcome back, Stroker. You made it just in time this time, because I think the last couple of streams you've come right when we finished, and yeah, we didn't get a chance to really catch up with you. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, it's good to see you back. Of course, one of our earliest viewers. So Stroker says Mowgli has free will, since he never met any other people that could try to use tricks to control him or affect him against him. And then Owens Clan says, who? And Stroker says, Mowgli from Jungle Book, you know, the boy that was grown up with the animals. So Mowgli has free will. And so your definition of free will, Stroker, is that you can't be affected by sort of external pressures or influences. Is that what you're saying, basically? Now, I wanted to also ask, because we kind of there was some discussion earlier on, how do you think it is people arrive at some form of free will? How do they exercise that? You know, because the point was made earlier that you're not really born with it. It's something that over time you sort of work on and then get more of a chance to exercise. So how do you think it is people generally get the chance to exercise free will, or sort of obtain free will, if you will, during their lifetime? But yeah, I never thought of Mowgli as a particular like example of free will, but that's like I like it. I do like the Jungle Book. So apparently, when I was younger, I used to watch it every single day for about a year. So yeah, very much a fan. Apparently, maybe I didn't have free will. I was just a slave to the Jungle Book watching. Actually, I think when I was younger.
Look at you! You're back to it again. Slave to Mowgli.
An addiction. Well, it was literally just brought up there in the chat, but yeah, no, I would have come on to anyway. Yeah, regardless of that, I would have started talking about Mowgli, I'm sure, at some point. Yeah. So again, let's explore like Stroker's idea a little bit, which is to say that free will is that the fact that no one else can use tricks to control you. What do you think that ties in? Do you think that's some part of the definition, or?
Well, I suppose when what was it? Owen's Clan earlier was saying that. Sorry, I'm getting lost in all my words today. Go and repeat that. Sorry, I'm being really rubbish.
Well, just while you're thinking about that, Stroker says here, in my opinion, people are born with free will, but people around us try to demotivate us every day. We lose free will upon interaction with the wrong people. What do you think of that?
That's really interesting, actually. I've never thought about that before. I can definitely see that being true, at least to some degree.
I like this idea that Stroker's bringing forward. I mean, he's basically bringing the idea forward of like deceivers. You're saying there's deceivers basically there in the world, and interaction with deceivers. It's kind of their task, or their imperative is to basically try and pull away from you your own rational sort of decision making. I think that's what you're saying anyway. And I think that's an interesting point. So how is it people can learn to defend against that? Say there are deceivers here that, you know, are bad interactions for us as people. Then how can people learn to not lose their free will to those sorts of people? How do you think you'd answer that?
Who, me? Or
Oh,
not?
why not you?
Stroker.
Since you're there, yeah, and Stroker as well. Obviously, I want you to answer that too.
Um,
And also, in the meantime, Owen's clan says you can gain critical thinking. I find society, is that societies or societies to be more loyal. Okay, and if you think that, so how do you think you gain critical thinking? Because it's definitely under our understanding that it's not something that's really taught to you. So is it pure chance, or is there some way in which we can help people to gain critical thinking, or help people to have more exercise of their free will? But, by what means can we do that? How can we make that easier for people?
well, kind of going off of Stroker's point, if this fits in, I kind of think children are quite good at critically thinking. They need to like learn a lot of basic things that are kind of something you would assume, and then that's not true. But like after that point, I think they're good at they're good at asking why, basically, which is
Hmm.
better than a lot of people.
Certainly.
And they actually think about. Oh, sorry, what?
I was just saying, certainly that's true, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the fact that they can even ask that with an open mind, genuinely, really, compared to adults, and listen to an answer, whatever answer they get, actually makes them quite good critical thinkers. And off the point that Stroker was saying, I think that could be true because it does seem kind of like, well, my view would be like the schools have kind of done that. They've kind of been little deceivers that are planting little things here and there to make this whole web sort of uh, fixed, and you're like kind of fixed in this mindset the time you're out of school.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think I kind of agree with Stroker on that. It's maybe, but to be fair, it's maybe not everyone. I maybe don't believe that like all children are born critical thinkers or anything, but I think maybe the ones that are going to be like more so when they're younger, and then
Hmm.
they're maybe going to get deceived by people along the way, and then maybe hopefully at the other end learn who the deceivers are and to be aware of them so that they don't get kind of tricked again, and then they can see more and more as they get older.
Yes, I think that's a good point. I'd like to make a point after I read these comments, which I will do if you're
Yeah.
care to listen. Um, Owens Clan says that critical thinking in social skills and children beat animals for sure. I assume you mean in critical thinking, but yeah, probably you're right. And the point what I would say to that then is that I'd like to say that children, I believe you're right in saying they are better questioners. However, they're fairly poor at critically thinking, is my understanding. The questioning
Okay.
aspect is fantastic, but we learn to critically think as we grow older. But what mustn't happen for us to be able to blend the two existences of our child self and our adult self is we mustn't let that questioning mind be beaten out of us. And that is the attempt at what institutions do. I do believe it's the case at schools essentially try to beat out the questioning mind from children because that is not the kind of employee you want to have. That's not the kind of person you want that's going to question the structures. You don't want someone who questions
And
society. So that, speaking from a purely view of just trying to produce the most hard, loyal, sort of hard workers, you don't wish for them to be questioning. So it's important to like remove or sort of condition out of children that sort of questioning and thinking. The only reason I believe they're not critical is that they're much more naive and accepting of a final answer. So I would say if you can blend the
yeah,
two, if you can be questioning and retain that childlike part of yourself that's open to questioning and opening to like listening to other people, but also then the adult side you want to marry with that is the ability to then analyze the answers you're given and not just accept whatever someone tells you, because a very young child simply accepts. They just whatever the authority tells them, they believe that 100%. I believe that's apparently especially the case up to the age of 7, that they just take whatever you say as basically absolute fact. So, um,
so
well,
what about after 7 then?
After 7, well, maybe they start to become more critical. Maybe that's when you sort of start seeing children questioning how the hell does Santa Claus get to all those houses, isn't it? That's the kind of
Yeah.
age where they start, like, going, well, that sounds all right, but what about this, And they get that little bit more critical, you see. They're not just going to accept whatever you tell them. So I think that's where it comes in. And I think, yeah, ultimately you want to maintain that questioning mind, be open in questioning, but also be critical and don't accept whatever it is you're told as an answer. And that's my take on it. Well, and
yeah, no.
Sorry, did you have something to say?
No.
No.
Long forgotten.
Okay.
I agree with you. Yeah. And that does make more sense. I suppose I was thinking actually, again, of that example of me in primary 7 when they told us we couldn't call the blackboard a blackboard.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't politically correct anymore. So that like sticks with me because everyone like knew that was a load of shit back then. So we were all like 12 years old, roughly, I suppose. So that just sticks with me in my mind as like, well, these 12-year-olds are smarter than the same people are now. Like, they'll probably all think that's right now. But when they were 12, they were smarter, and they're smarter than a lot of adults. So there's maybe like a kind of good age where kids know a bit more, but they're not like kind of accepting everything, but they're still asking why. So maybe there's kind of a good age for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would tend to agree in the sense that children understand inherently many things, and they are very wise in many ways, and we've got much we can learn from them. We shouldn't certainly just dismiss them for the fair fact that they are young, because in many cases, as you just explained, there are children who are far wiser than adults. And as I said, the ability to be an open-minded, questioning being should certainly be an enviable thing for all of us, because it's an excellent quality that children naturally possess, as you've said. Strocker says here, in the Bible, Moses went with his followers to the desert for 40 years, and the priests in church explained this once, that the reason for this long trip was because when people finally reached the promised land, there was no one who were actual slaves of Pharaoh. I don't know if that's, sorry, I'm not sure if that's a name. I'm assuming that's like maybe a name of like the slave owner. Only new generations that have never been in slavery could create the promised community. And then Owens Clan posts a picture of Santa Claus again. I think that's in reference to the fact I was saying that children start to question Santa Claus. Which is strange, because at the very start of this conversation, I think you posted a Santa Claus as well. So isn't that kind of strange? It's like you predicted that we're going to be, or maybe I've been influenced by that Santa Claus picture, and that's why I've said it later on. Who knows? No free will. See, it was all determined. This conversation is all exactly how it was meant to go, you see? None of us chose any of it.
That's actually weird. You know how I was cleaning today? I found... what?
Yes, okay. You were cleaning today.
Oh, right. And I found a little card thing that I kept because I liked what it said on it. What did it say? Wait 2 seconds, I'll just grab it.
Okay.
But it's kind of like what we're speaking about.
All right, okay. Also, Strocker says, sorry, my English sometimes sucks. By Pharaoh, I mean the rulers of Egypt. It's not that your English sucks, it's just that I'm ignorant of the story, and I'd never heard the word Pharaoh. So,
oh, yes.
That's the rulers of Egypt, apparently, is our Pharaoh. I think that's what you're saying there. But yeah, thanks for the point. And sorry. Oh, there's also 5 more Santa Clauses just before you do that. And this is how I say hi. Says Owens Clan as well.
Hi.
So that's a lot of Santa Clauses. Yeah, sorry, what do you have there? You've got a card.
So it says on it, did you plan much of what's happening right now? It actually just came in the perfume thing that your grandpa gave me.
Oh, I see.
But I always thought that was quite interesting, because it's just like, I thought that was quite fun. But maybe that actually was the influence of this whole conversation.
So it all comes back to the genesis of this little card. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
And who knows if I chose to start paying to get this card, so who knows?
So you're hearing back to there is no free will. It's like the end point of our conversation. We started by being proponents for it, and now we find ourselves at the end, we're sort of back to the start, questioning it again, aren't we? So, which is fine. Stalker, Owens Clan says pharaohs. Yeah, I believe Stalker was talking about sort of pharaohs. I think that's the right thing in the story. And Stalker says, "Yep, my English." No, as I said, it's not your English. Just I've never heard of Ferris. That is pharaohs. Oh, I see. No, now it all makes sense. Okay, that was your English, right? Okay, so Ferris was pharaohs.
Okay,
I
right.
just didn't pick up on that. I thought maybe like Ferris, as in like that was the king of the time or the main slave owner. I just wasn't even like clicking in my head that that was meant to be pharaohs.
Oh, well, yeah.
So it makes more sense now. Yeah, uh, yeah. Thanks for clearing that up,
So what
Owens
was it?
Clan. Well, in the story, apparently, so they walked the desert for 40 years, according to Strocker, and a priest in church had explained to Strocker that the reason for the long trip was that people would reach the promised land, where no one would be the actual slave of pharaohs, and the new generation that had never been in slavery could create the promised community. So these are people who are
So
free,
you're
who can
saying
exercise free will, are the only ones who can create something that is good. I think that's what we're meant to derive from that story.
so the slaves therefore can't create like a utopia kind of thing? Is that what sort of
Well,
current
I don't know.
paradigms
Like,
are showing?
I wonder if like it's kind of a metaphor if you're saying that slave of. I mean, obviously they're actually slaves in that story. But is that to say that if you're a slave in your mind, if you've got a slave mindset, or you are that basically implies you're controlled by something else, doesn't it? So I wonder if that's kind of metaphorical in that way as well. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading too
It
much
makes
into
more
it.
sense
Um,
metaphorically to me.
in the sense that yeah, if you're controlled, you necessarily can't bring something new, and you can't be free to choose, can you? If something else controls you, so
Because yeah, you need something to hold the leash. You know, like if you are controlled, you can't just like get your slave owner to leave you out in the wild because you'll die.
hmm.
You actually need them. So
And apparently, Strocker says that all of the slaves were dead in the trip, and only their children were able to reach the promised land. Only the children reached the land. They were kids that had never seen slavery. So they were the truly sort of free people. They were free without the restrictions of slavery. So what we're to gather from that, we're to gather that you must break free from your chains, if you will, whether that's metaphorical or physical, to be able to
mm-hmm.
really create anything of good, to be able to do anything of good, you must sort of free yourself. So maybe I don't know, Stroke, if I'm getting that completely wrong, and I don't know if you meant it in a metaphorical way, but it sort of speaks to me in that way. That we have to kind of
It makes
free
sense.
ourselves even of our own control, and not only like an external, in this case a pharaoh or a leader or something like this controlling us, but make sure we ourselves aren't really like controlling ourselves or censoring ourselves, or doing any of these number of things that the brain sort of seems to automatically do to control us. Because I guess part of being a human is moderation of how we act, but we don't want to do that to the extent that then we're not free to really express what we think, which does seem to be a problem currently, doesn't it? People are moderating themselves so much because they're so concerned that the way they speak or the way they think will come across in the wrong way. And then how can you produce anything of good if you are so much obscuring the truth of how you feel and how you think? Um, or is that just a terrible rambling that I've just done? What do you think?
No, I was just going to say, do you think that it's becoming more of a problem then that like everything is recorded, and do you think that's making people more conscious about what they say, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like maybe makes them more of a mask kind of person because they're kind of trying to please everyone, and when you're on the internet trying to please everyone, you're going to have a really hard time doing that. So,
I think that you make a good
do you
point,
think?
and I think in the sense that people are much more free to throw stones than they were before because they can do it from the safety of their anonymity or the safety of their home, and they can't expect the same backlash or the same treatment for themselves. So they can apply a sort of standard to what someone else has said without getting like the repercussion of, well, they're going to challenge you in the future, because they can just hide behind their own screen or profile, etc., because that's the way a lot of communication is happening now. It's like through the internet, isn't it?
Mhm.
So I definitely think there's a difference between how people communicate face to face and there is online. But yeah, aside from that, I think people are very good at picking out the flaws and the incorrect reasoning in other people's arguments, but not their own. Which is the very like nature of self reflection. Means we have to apply the same standard we want to apply to others to ourselves, and that isn't a natural thing. It seems that's not something people do without much work. Um,
Yeah, but I think that's why people need to be with. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just actually going to read what was said here in the chat.
Oh,
Stroker says, if we were living as slaves, even after receiving the freedom, we still continue living on the old rules. That is the problem. We use this, and it's hard to change. And in the past, there were less laws as well. There's quite a lot of points in sort of one from Stroker, I think there. Um, I think there's some good stuff to take from all of that. When you say it's hard to change, that's definitely kind of on topic of what we were just saying. That it takes a lot of work to actually make any good change, and not just change for the sake of change too. Because I'm always saying that I don't think we should conflate change for progress, because just because something is different than it was doesn't make it better, and we have to be very careful to recognize that, I think. But I do also agree
yeah.
that we need to, where necessary, make improvements and make changes. But we should do that in some kind of methodological way, some kind of way where we can just slowly improve it, take stock of how it's changed to see if it's better or worse, and then continue or not based on that information. So I think a lot of the time we don't really wait for that feedback. We make the change, something happens, it may be good or bad, but then we're already on to sort of the next topic of change before we've really had time to see if the results were good or bad, or should we have done that? And if you know what I'm saying, if that makes any sense. But
Well,
um,
yeah, it does. See, when there's well, for example, this is a bit off topic, but it just kind of fits in. When Jordan Peterson said like talking about transgender um issues, I don't know what I'm calling it. But basically how we've not had enough time yet to see the effects of these things. And so he's saying like within 15 years we're going to know about it. But that's why you need a long time to test things, especially when they're that big of a change. Um, so who knows when that'll start showing up? But like, yeah, you need to test these things for like a long period of time, I would say. And but that's never going to happen because there's just too many things changing like every second right now compared to when we were actually in our wee tribes. Sorry to go on about that again, but that's my favourite thing. Um, what would even change in your lifetime? There wouldn't be much, you know what I mean? There actually wouldn't be that much that changes in your lifetime compared to now. It's just unbelievable. I don't
mm,
know how people keep track. It's actually no wonder people are so messed up because like it's so hard to keep track of what causes what effect and what because you might dye your hair, then go out for a curry, then do this, then I don't know, go and drink alcohol, and you don't know which things caused any of this. Do you know what I mean? Like no one's keeping track. It's just all too much, I think. And that was actually a ramble, so sorry, I don't even know what's happening.
well, I think I can understand if you say that at least in the past, the change that took place would be understood much better than now. I think I would tend to agree because nothing would be so different than the your ancestors. Whereas now it's such a different world. It's such an abstraction as to compared to sort of the past that yeah, I do think it's harder to determine which changes have which effects on such a grand scale. We've created with like globalization a sort of infinite number of possibilities that no one person can
Yeah,
really get their head around. And that makes room for people who will claim they know what's going on, claim how they know how to do many things, but how will we know? What we must understand is no one really knows how all things affect all things. It's just not in the ability of a human mind, is it, to really see how everything's affected. But it is within the ability, as you mentioned, for maybe a smaller tribe, a smaller group of things to see what affects what, and it's much more based again in sort of reality, I would say as well.
yeah, because
Um,
if you've got six people in your tribe and you've all changed like the breakfast. I don't fucking know, but like let's just say, then you
right,
can get
yeah,
everyone's feedback for for the next month. How do they like it? Blah, blah. Like, you can't do that on these scales of things. And especially when no one's asking you whether they can change this or that or the next thing. And it's happening like in like 100 different miniature directions everywhere. So
Yeah.
Anyway, go on. We're about to read a comment now.
Basically, no, it just says that Owens Clan says it's good to be American, just as well. I bet it is compared to many number of places you could be. Although America is quite obviously, like, it depends where you are. There's a lot of different states, isn't there? So it's quite a vast diversity in what life's like there, I'm sure.
What state are you in?
Yeah, which state are you from, Owens Clan, just out of interest? Not that I'll actually know where that is geographically, but I might. I'll probably recognise the name. Also, So Prime HD is here. Very welcome, very good to see you in the stream. Say, hey guys, sorry I haven't been around. You guys are live weird hours for me. And what's free will? So Prime asks as well. Yeah, well, it's good you've somehow made it to us. We are going to be kind of wrapping up quite shortly, but I'm willing to kind of let you get your sort of maybe a quick few questions out, maybe a quick opinion out, and then we'll sort of look to wrap things up, I think, because we've been running for a little bit over an hour now. Yeah, so what is free will? Well, we first need to define it at the start of the stream as human beings being able to make choices for themselves and being sort of unaffected ultimately by outside sort of or external factors. Stroker went on to sort of describe that similar. Well, we can change it. Yeah, I'm just saying where we started off with sort of that. Stroker sort of tied that in with the not being able to be deceived was something that came up later, which I thought was an interesting way of sort of looking at it. So being able to do things without anyone else influencing how you do that. But okay, if we can keep it basic, we'll say that it's the ability for humans to have the ultimate ability to decide what they're doing. Does that seem fair?
Yes.
That seems all right. Well, we'll go with that. Mm-hmm. and if it needs to change, and I'm sure it can change. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Owens Clan said, I don't want to say which state, but the USA is great. Oh, I hope that's not by any means that we won't like the state, because I don't have any strong opinions to any particular state, so don't be concerned in that sense. Maybe you just mean for privacy, although I doubt knowing which state you're in would mean that we'd be able to do much with that information. However, that's quite all right. Starcroft says, free will is like you open your phone Wi-Fi settings, you see a lot of networks, and you can join any of them. Well, you can't. You don't have free will. Or free Wi-Fi. That's a terrible joke. I like it though.
I was actually just thinking like that just reminds me of you, David. So
yeah, that's probably like a dose of my own like rubbish jokes. But I like rubbish jokes. I'm always telling like absolutely silly jokes, so I like that one actually. So Prime says, I'll let you wrap up, but my 2 cents is that free will doesn't exist. Oh, that's a real shame, because we've had mostly, I think, proponents of free will tonight, and it would have been good to have the counterpoint and the counter. Well, we could do it a bit longer. Okay, let's open up. Let's say we'll go till 7:30 then. Let's make room for all you loyal people that have come to help support the stream. Let us make a little bit more room just for you. Also, So Prime says everything is against the law. Everything's against the law, and that is tied to that free will doesn't exist. Well, I'm not too sure about what you're tying in there exactly. Remember, I'm quite a simpleton, so let's just take stock of that. Now, but I would like you to explain, you say free will doesn't exist, and I'd really be interested in how you've come to that conclusion, and just for you to expand a little bit on that. As I said, everyone else has been sort of a proponent of free will up until now, so I'd like to have this counterpoint from you. That'd be really good.
We did kind of agree that free will didn't exist by the end of it, so
I don't know if I've always been making the statement that I think there might be a kind of combination of the two, and when you look
decided at the end.
Okay.
This whole stream's none of our choice.
Oh, I see, because you found the little cardboard thing, yeah. Well, be as that may, even if it isn't our choice, let us continue discussing anyway, and we'll try to act as though we are choosing the questions then. Also, Sam's too is here. Sam's, welcome back. Again, you've kind of come at the end of the stream, unfortunately, but a little bit of time left. We're extending it out to 7:30, so guess you got lucky here. And simply, Sam says the answer is yes. Just simply the answer is yes. But I'm not going to be satisfied with that, Sam. So you're going to have to explain to me a couple of things. How is it that you've decided that free will does exist? And by what means, another question we're sort of often asking is, if it does exist, by what means do human beings come to acquire free will or to exercise free will? And finally, the other question was, does free will exist on a spectrum, or is it simply a case of black and white? Does one simply have free will or they don't? Or are there levels as to which you can obtain free will and levels as to which you can exercise it? I know that's a lot of questions. Sorry, but I'm just sort of recapping the questions we've had from the start of the stream. That's kind of the main things we've been discussing. So if you have answers for any or all of those, that would be great. And sorry, you look like you wanted to say something. Did you want to say something? No, you didn't. So you're just putting on I would like to say something face. Wanting to say anything.
Excited by the end of the questions because I thought we're going to get lots of answers.
Oh, hopefully we do. Hopefully everyone wishes to answer those questions as best as they can. The answer is yes. Simply, lol, says Sans. Everything in a life is a choice. The only thing we have to do is die. That is the only thing we don't have free will in. And I would believe we receive free will from God. So what do you think of that? So Sam says the only thing that we don't have choice to do is to die.
I'm going to actually need to think about that for a second, so give me a...
Well,
that's quite a...
Thanks, Sam, for answering the question, by the way, first of all. I'll let you think of that, and in the meantime, there's a bit of a comment from SoPrime that's come back to us. I don't mean to kind of muddle all the things, but you think of that, I'll read these out, and we'll try and meet back in the middle, okay?
And I'm already off path.
Your path is you're thinking about what Sam said, which is that everything in life is choice except to die. That is the only thing you do not choose. So have a think about that.
Okay.
And SoPrime says, so in the USA, even like property ownership is controlled by others. You need permits and permission for almost anything you want to do. To take it a step further, most prime real estates are starting to be developed in HQO, Home Owners Association, basically a committee that tells you what you can and can't do with your property. And that's just one aspect of life. Cars is another. Buy a fast car. For what? To pay the government shit tons of tax and speeding tickets. So, what you're sort of talking about in SoPrime is that you think people live in an oppressive state, a state in which they can't exercise free will due to restrictions. So, can you clarify? Are you saying that we simply don't have free will and this is the result? Or are you saying that we do have free will but we're stopped from exercising it by many outside sources? What exactly are you saying?
Yeah, because obviously there's far too many restrictions, and I'd agree with that. They're pretty ridiculous, especially when it's your own property and stuff like this. But I don't think that actually affects your choice. I mean, it does affect your choice, but like you can still choose to do it. It's just you're going to get put in prison or something.
Mm-hmm.
So is that slightly different? Because that's...
I think I understand. I think I definitely understand where SoPrime is coming from, in the sense that how can one really exercise a free choice, an open choice, if one of those choices leads to certain detrimental effect, and that detrimental effect is decided by society, isn't it? It's sort of like, like the opinion would be, well, you can choose to not pay your taxes, but then you're going to jail. You said, well, is that really a free choice then? I think it's a very good point, actually, that he's making, if that's the point you're trying to make.
I'm just saying you can still do it, though, is my point.
That's very true, yes. But I guess what SoPrime is kind of trying to question then in this discussion is, how much of a choice really is that then? Or how much can you have an exercise free will, which basically implies that you are free to do as you wish? I guess the word free is sort of in there. I think the angle that SoPrime's taken is, well, it's not really free choice. It's a choice that is heavily affected by an external factor. And I think that's a good point, actually. But maybe you can think about that, and I'll catch up on the rest of the comments as well. And sorry, because now the comments are starting to flow. Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, I'll read the comments, and then I'm going to let you speak for a bit, okay? I'm just going to read. All I'm going to do is read all the comments, and then you're going to speak, okay? Right. So, no cure. Oh, okay. Cars by life. Yep, life is a deadly disease. No cure, says Shocker Ace. Owens Clan says that God gave us everything we have.
What, sorry?
God gave us everything that we have, says Owens Clan. So Prime says, you can't sniff Windex, you can't do anything without somebody telling you how you should live. They'll put you in a clinic. And Stroker had to open Google Translate. So Prime says, obviously a harsh exaggeration, the sniffing of Windex. Yeah, okay, slightly joking, but yeah, I get what you mean, for sure. Sam says that it's free will, though. You have a choice to pay taxes or not to pay taxes. It's still free will. So Sam's is actually more like what you were saying. Sam's is kind of agreeing with you, saying, well, you can still choose, though. You still don't lose your free will just because of outside influences or external factors. So good bit of like counterpoints. This is good now. And
yeah, I mean, you obviously have to act within like reality, as in like, if you don't want to go to jail, you should probably pay your taxes, but obviously it doesn't mean you can't do that. It's like, I don't really... It doesn't affect, like, to me, that doesn't seem to affect free will, which is the ability to do that, to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it does. It doesn't. It's like in different ways, isn't it?
I think it really depends on the perspective or the way you're looking, the angle you're looking at it from. I think that's the point. Like, sometimes we're looking at this question or this definition of free will from different angles, and that gets us different answers. And none of what you guys are saying is wrong. And I think actually everyone is making really, really good points right now. So I'm really enjoying the fact that we're starting to get like a lot of good points coming through. So it's not wrong. It's just that we're all looking at it from like a different angle, and depending on the angle you look at it from, you can kind of see it in a different way. I think it is what's going on here.
Yeah.
But I'll sort of continue on because there's a few more points as well. Owens Clan says that you have genuine choice and it's you making them. That's free will. Then So Prime says, is there a difference? If we just stopped, well, say you're the fastest runner in the world but are never allowed to run, are you still the fastest? I love it. A bit of like a hypothetical question. Yes. Brilliant.
The mind is puzzled.
So if you're the fastest runner in the world, let's look at that, but you're never allowed to run, are you still fast? You know what that reminds me of? A little bit reminds me of if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? It's kind of similar to that one, isn't it? Yeah. How, I guess, okay, the counter question to that then is, how do you know you're the fastest runner in the world in the first place? Then, if you'd never run.
I wouldn't know.
That's also, my kind of question.
What?
So there's probably no time to go back now. We're on a roll. We have to just keep moving forward. So you can think about that question. If you're the fastest runner in the world, but you never ran, you're never allowed to run, are you still the fastest? You can think about that. And I'll quickly get through these.
No, I think your question answered it fine. I need the answer to that part.
Well, I'm not sure what the other question was, no.
Just read it on your note, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to go on now. So, as Stroker says, I've forgotten which US state, Florida or Texas or another one, but if cactus is grown in your land, you can't touch it, dig it, or cut it out, or damage it in any other way, apparently. That's strange. The cactus is, like, protected by government, or... Wow, that's a weird one. I think it's meant to be the same as swans, isn't it? Yeah, swans here, I think you're not meant to, like, be able to... Not that you should be harming any animal, but I think they apparently say that all the swans in Britain are owned by the Queen. So if you're like attacking a swan, it's apparently more serious than attacking, say, a duck. But anyway.
That just pisses me off. That just strange. Really does
annoy. Sam says, definition of free will is the power of acting without the constraint of necessity or fate. The ability to act at one's own discretion. Wow, it's only we had you to define that at the start, Sam, because I just bumbled out some kind of definition, and then you've put that quite well. So we'll need you to sort of set up the definitions in the future. So what do you think that's quite a good one, or?
Yeah, there was a word in it that I wanted to say about, but I forgot it. What did he say for the definition?
So power of acting without the constraint of necessity or fate, the
That was
ability to act at one's own discretion. So I guess because kind of
that
what we're
was.
asking in tangent, we're kind of asking, is there such thing as fate? Aren't that's what we're kind of talking about, isn't it, as well? So
Mhm.
sorry, were you saying something?
The bit without necessity, I thought that, to me, that defines it really well, because um, that's what I think animals are. It's their um, acting out necessity, basically. So
Yeah, so it's almost the ability to act at leisure. It's the ability to act as you will without pressures, without like something pushing you or pressuring you towards making the decision. Because that's almost like the case when,
yeah,
when we even ourselves as humans, let alone animals, but when we're in like a state of panic. I think we'd all agree you have much less free will in that definition, like free choice, when you're in a state of like say an emergency. Say like two of your friends are under attack at like two separate rooms and you can only go through one door sort of thing. It's not really like your free choice. You're just gonna have to act. You're gonna have to just hurry up and go one way sort of thing, aren't you? So, or if you're being attacked, it's not like you can think through. Oh, how do I defend this? How do I take the knife off him? You just react. You just go, and it's not like you choose how you're going to react necessarily. Does it, if that makes sense? So I think that's kind of acting out of necessity, like say defending yourself against an attacker or something like that. It's not so much you choose how you defend yourself. Does that make
weird,
sense?
because
Or?
there's even um, like I've noticed this was around about the time that I was doing a bit of like biology and psychology, so I was kind of like noticed it, but I was like out a walk, and I just did I hear something? Oh, I can't remember, but like something happened, and I like jumped, like I shot myself, and but I felt like I jumped before like I'd even realised what was going on. It was like that reaction had happened before I could really register that there was a sound.
Right,
So obviously it is all these fast things. It's like you've got no control over that really.
right.
Like
So,
your
so
body's
you
just
need
done.
to be able to think at leisure, yeah, like as in like there's space and a relaxed environment and time to think. But when are we at leisure now? If we're bombarded by society and all the things we're doing, we're not really thinking in leisure. We're sort of thinking in this like reactionary state a lot of the time, aren't we? So, but anyway, I think that's a good point. And let's sort of continue on with the comments because we're getting a few coming through now.
Yeah.
Owens Clan says, I don't think the topic is about the degree of freedom, but whether there is any freedom at all. I feel that all the good points came from me. He also adds as well. Naturally, you would say that, yeah. So you're not so sure it's like a spectrum of free will as we kind of described it earlier. You think it is maybe more you do or you do not have freedom. You do or do not have freedom to think. I actually think that's a good point. I actually like how we've kind of come now to how was it affected, and I think also the questions posed about if you can't exercise it practically, do you still have it? I think that was an excellent like hypothetical. So I think this is very interesting to me anyway. These are some really good points that people come
Yeah.
up with, right now.
Well, it's because I've never looked at it from like it wasn't until I was like speaking there with you, um, that I saw like the two perspectives, and I was like, they're both like what? Oh, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's great to be
Like
illuminated
they're
by
both
other people on different angles. It's so enjoyable, like to see that people can approach the same thing differently. It's really fun. Um,
Mhm.
so I'll kind of continue on here. So Prime says I'll let you guys wrap up, but I'll watch the VOD. This is interesting. I think that's like the video that gets recorded of our stream. So Prime's going to go back and watch it. Well, thanks very much. That's nice of you to say. And yeah, these are all recorded as well. So if you've missed past streams and you went around, you can kind of go on our channel and catch up a little bit. If you want to see what we were talking about previously. And also, I'll just quickly mention this because we are coming near the end. If you guys ever have any suggestions for future streams, there's two ways in which you can get in touch with us. One is I've left a suggestion box on the actual channel page. So when you go onto our channel underneath, if you scroll down, there should be a suggestion box where you can post your comments. So you can post ideas for future streams or sort of questions and things in there. But not only that, I'd encourage you all to join the Discord that we've set up. And that, again, the link is available underneath the channel. So if you want to post like any questions or articles or just anything at all that you think will be interesting for the stream, please join in there. Please bring it up there, and we'll be happy to kind of read through them and see what you guys are saying. Yeah. Stroker says, finally, proper discussion is starting 5 minutes before the end. I know. Oh, unfortunately, that's just when things sort of kicked off. But if you guys are there for tomorrow or for the future nights, we're doing this every night at 6 p.m, the same time. So please do get involved. Please come as often as you can and let everyone know that you think would be interested. If you've been enjoying this and you think someone else would enjoy it, let them know. Bring them along and let's sort of build this thing up, yeah?
We can also ask the same question tomorrow if you guys want.
I think this has been really good. Yeah, I think we should continue on. I think we've just started getting into some really good points from people, so I think we should just continue this on tomorrow night if everyone's happy with that. Google is key, says Sam's. Oh, okay. So a little bit of influence from Google with the definition of free will. So I was competing with the master. Stroker says cactus are protected by law at some point in history. In that state, they were nearly extincted. Okay, so there's some reason there was an extinction going on of cactus. It's not so ridiculous. Just ask Big Daddy Google. He has all the answers, says Sam. Yeah, Google's definitely a helpful thing to have for sure. Soul Prime says, I believe in the past, free will, freedom, existed. Nowadays, we are chained to the ground, even if there are no real chains. Oh, that's an excellent
that's
analogy, isn't it? Yeah, the chains. I guess I think of free will and freedom as the same word. Whether or not I could build a rocket, someone would stop me because it's possibly too dangerous. I think we're getting a lot of the feeling from Soul Prime that there's too much like bureaucracy and restraint and moderation and control and censorship and so forth. And fundamentally, I would certainly agree, yeah, with that kind of sentiment. So thanks for bringing that kind of angle up for us as well to be able to look at it that way. And then Stroker says, I think this is the last comment here, our ancestors created rules. People who had no job created their own job and over time gained skills like making pots, woodworks. Parents usually want their children to inherit their skills and job, of course, and following them is not free will. So actually, Stroker is taking it from another angle where again he's saying there's not fully free will if you're, again, being influenced and sort of your path is being chosen for you ahead of time. And maybe that's perhaps genetically as well as how you're influenced when you're born and you're shown these skills and sort of put into that position. I think that's all, and yet again another way of sort of looking at it. However, now that I can catch my breath and I've read all of them, okay, so it's 7:32. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. We kind of had a slow start and then everyone just picked up the pace and started making some really good comments, really good suggestions tonight and good questions. So that was fantastic. I think I've said everything in regards to this. Thanks everyone, very much anyone who's posted and watched and listened and questioned. You are the guys that make this stream possible. Otherwise we're just sitting having conversations to ourselves as we do. But with your input, it makes it 10 times better. So that was really good, guys. As I said, we're going to continue on this same topic tomorrow night. So hopefully you'll be free. There's a sort of timer that's on the channel, below the channel again, that I've put up. So even if 6 p.m. GMT means nothing to you, that's like 6 p.m. UK time, the timer should show you like a countdown to when the next stream is starting. As well as that, if you've enjoyed the stream, please do follow the stream, because then you'll also get an email notification that lets you know when we're going live. And again, it's another way to remind you can come and get involved. I think that's it from Michelle. Do you have anything else to say?
No,
I didn't. Okay, I think that is it, guys. And thanks very much once again. You've made it a very interesting stream. Fantastic points all around. And I hope we catch as many as we can tomorrow night. And as I said, let your friends know, let anyone else know you think might be interested. The more thoughts we can get, the more comments we get, the better things are. So, thanks once again. And exactly. Sorry, am I just rambling at the ending point? Did you have something to say? No.
Yeah.
No. Okay. All right. Take care, guys. See you again soon, hopefully. Have a good night. Bye.